Good afternoon, and thank you for listening again today. As of 2 p.m. today, there have been 4,895 positive cases of COVID-19 in the state of Missouri, including 147 deaths. Over 49,000 Missourians have been tested so far. Last week, I announced that school buildings will remain closed for the rest of this academic year, while learning and other school services continue to be offered to students at a distance. We understand this is difficult for students, families, and educators, and this was not an easy decision. But we believe it was the right decision not only to continue protecting the health and safety of Missouri students and teachers, but also to give educators time to transition into remote teaching and learning solutions. We know remote learning looks differently in every district across the state, but I want to thank all of our educators, as well as our families at home, for stepping up and finding creative ways to continue educating our students during this difficult time. On Monday, we received confirmation from the United States Department of Education that Missouri will receive $208 million under the CARES Act to help schools with COVID-19 related needs. Additionally, we also received notification yesterday. Missouri will also receive $54.6 million from the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund authorized under the CARES Act. These dollars allows us to provide emergency support through K-12 schools, higher education, and other education institutions impacted by COVID-19. Today, Commissioner Van Dieven is here with us to provide more details. Commissioner?
Thank you, Governor Parson. Since March the 19th, all Missouri public school buildings have been closed, and schools have been transitioning to providing remote teaching and learning opportunities for their students. Throughout this time, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has remained committed to removing barriers and advocating for flexibilities so that school leaders can remain focused on the health and safety of their students, staff members, and communities, while continuing to provide distance learning opportunities and other support services for them. For most in education, and for most of our families at home, this is a new way of doing business, and we have adjusted at an accelerated pace. As with any unanticipated change, there is a financial cost associated with it. And that's why I'm pleased to stand here today with the governor to talk about the confirmation that we received from the U.S. Department of Education that Missouri will receive $208 million from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, known as the CARES Act, to help our K-12 schools respond to these needs. These dollars will help Missouri schools address the digital divide that we are experiencing, particularly in our rural and urban areas, as well as to address the remote teaching and learning challenges and lost learning time experienced throughout the state as a result of COVID-19. These K-12 funds will be distributed through the federal Title I allocations, which means that the funding will be sent first to those schools working to meet the unique needs of those who have traditionally been most disadvantaged. Additionally, last week our team applied for and received approval of a federal waiver authorized under the CARES Act that gives Missouri schools unprecedented flexibility in using the federal title dollars they already have to best meet the needs of the students and education during COVID-19. The new flexibilities allow schools to repurpose existing K-12 education funds for, among other things, technology infrastructure and teacher training on distance learning, and to move resources to the areas of highest need during this national emergency. We are grateful for the additional funds and for the needed flexibility, and look forward to continued work with the Governor's Office, the Department of Higher Education and Workforce Development, and other state agencies for a coordinated state response. And on a programmatic side, as we speak, a task force of leaders from across the state are working to propose viable summer school options, while other entities are working to determine what re-entry into our school buildings will look like. Not only do we need a consistent plan to ensure that students and educators across the state return to school safely, we need to be prepared to quickly address the educational gaps and the enhanced social and emotional learning needs that may surface among our students during this time. I continue to be proud of our school leaders, teachers and counselors, food service workers, and the other school staff members, as well as our Missouri students and their families, for the many ways they have risen and will continue to rise to the occasion to tackle the challenges presented through COVID-19. Thank you.
Margie, thank you very much. Thank you for what you're doing and for representing all the teachers and students out there. And I've still got hope them seniors are going to walk down an aisle to get that diploma before this year's over. We cannot thank Missourians enough for their efforts and commitment to following the stay-at-home Missouri order. Stay home and reducing public contact is still the most important step we can take as we continue to fight COVID-19. However, I want to remind everyone that this does not mean you must stay inside your home and never come out. That is not healthy for anyone. Spending time outdoors is good, not only for physical health, but also our mental health. We encourage Missourians to get outside and enjoy the fresh air. Conservation areas, nature trails, boat access remain open to the public. And the Missouri Department of Conservation has taken several precautions to ensure Missourians can still safely enjoy these activities. Today, Director Polly is here to give us an update on the department's COVID-19 response. Director Polly.
Thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to provide an update today from the Missouri Department of Conservation. So the good news, as the Governor mentioned, conservation areas and nature center trails and boat access sites do remain open to the public. Signs are posted on these areas to ensure safe physical distancing in the outdoors. And MDC continues to monitor visitor usage on our areas. Many trails across the state are seeing increased use, especially on warm and sunny days. And I would personally like to thank the Governor for ensuring time outdoors with the proper social distancing precautions is still available for Missourians across the state to take advantage of. This aligns perfectly with the most recent CDC guidance that encourages individuals to use parks and trails and open spaces safely as they are able, while following current guidance to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This is so important right now because there are incredible health benefits to being out in nature. Research has shown time and again that spending time outdoors can improve your physical and mental health, including decreasing stress levels, anxiety, and depression. Nature can be that bridge to health. In these challenging times, we need nature and fresh air perhaps more than ever to help us de-stress and to help connect us with those we love the most, whether we're walking on a trail or bird watching in a park, fishing in a pond, or out in the woods listening for turkeys gobbling this time of year. So the outdoors are open in Missouri, and we hope it'll be a place of great healing and connection in these tough times. Another opportunity to get outside will be spring turkey season, which starts Monday and will run through May 10th. But we do have areas of impact. Our MDC regional offices, the department headquarters in Jefferson City, our staffed shooting ranges, our nature centers, visitor centers, and educational centers around this state will continue to be closed to the public through April 30. While MDC offices are closed for general visitation, offices will still be staffed, and so visitors with official business will need to notify the office to gain access. MDC public events and programs around the state, including hunter ed classes nature center programs and events, shooting range programs and events, and landowner workshops will also be canceled until April 30. Our Conservation Commission approved a waiver of all fishing licenses from March 27th through today, April 15th. But though the free fishing permit waiver ends today, the daily trout tag waiver will be extended at the 3 open trout parks until further notice. Related to communications, we continue to work in collaboration with all other public land agencies in Missouri, including weekly joint communications to share impacts from COVID-19, including any changes or closures. In collaboration with Missouri State Parks, we've created a radio and video PSA emphasizing the benefits of getting outdoors right now while abiding by physical distancing precautions, and we're working with stations around the state to help us share that message. So we appreciate all the media has done to ensure that we are spreading that message effectively. Finally, for the latest information on areas and programs that have been impacted by COVID-19, you can go to MissouriConservation.org and click on the COVID-19 response. Thank you, Governor. This is all I have for an update today.
Sarah, thank you very much. I couldn't help but think when you were speaking up here how much I miss the outdoors. It's been a long time, seemed like being out there. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people feel the same way in Missouri. But thank you for what you and your agency does over there. Let's open it up for questions, Kelly.
All right, thank you, Governor. The first question is from Connor Hirsch, which is ABC 17 News. Smaller counties and rural areas struggle with access to health care, and those populations are ranked as more socially vulnerable to the COVID-19 crisis, as many are lower-income populations. How is the state prepared to help rural communities and counties who may not have easy access to health care and testing?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we put up like 90-plus mobile sites across the state, trying to make sure we address that issue. How we're encouraging people to use telemedicine and how we're seeing that more active where those services are possible there. But I think every day we're taking a look at rural Missouri because one of the concerns we have in all those areas. So every day we're taking a look at that, trying to figure out what services we can do better. But the good news in rural Missouri, there is a lot of agencies anymore that you can go to in testing when you have problems you can go to at this point. So we're trying to work on that every day.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Andy House, KQTV. As more meat processing plants across the country are closing due to employees falling ill with coronavirus, are you in communication with any processing plants in Missouri regarding the threat coronavirus poses to their employees and communities?
Yeah, I get briefed just every weekly from the Director of Department of Ag. Chris Chen stays on top of that every day to make sure what is their needs, how are they keeping people employed, and how they make sure them process plants are staying open here in Missouri. And through the business sector of it, the people that are running those plants are doing a good job trying to make sure those people have that social distancing, making sure they're safe. But the director's on that daily, making sure, especially with the recent events that happened, I know she's been in contact with them and other agencies across the United States, plus here in Missouri. So I get briefed on that weekly.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Asa Frankowitz, Campus Reform. At MU, as a result of the budget cuts, staff are no longer given raises or promotions, and there are no new hiring going on at the school. How do you, Governor Parson, and the government plan on fixing this problem in the future?
Well, first of all, let me just say thanks to President Choi up at MU for the job he's doing, because he specifically mentioned MU. But all our institutions had to take a cut in funding. I think the one thing we do is in the future is we try to make up that funding, which we always have, trying to figure out how do we put it back. But look, right now everybody's going to have to take a cut. There's not going to be many exemptions from that as we move forward, especially going into 2021. So when the revenues come up, when people go back to work and we start getting back to some sort of normal, then we'll try to figure out how we get that funding back. But until that time, presidents like that's going to have to lead and figure out what they can do and how do they be a better manager of what they do have.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Brian Hosworth, MissouriNet. Governor, Democratic State Representative Rasheen Aldridge is blasting the Senate Majority Leader's announcement that Missouri lawmakers will return to the Capitol in Jefferson City on April 27th. He has safety and health concerns due to COVID-19. Do you believe it is safe for lawmakers to return?
I do believe it's safe for them to return, and I think that decision's up to the lawmakers. They're all elected officials who represent certain portions of this state, and I think it's important right now in times like this that they figure alternative ways to be able to have those sessions, and I hope they can figure that out, and I hope they do, because there's still work to be done every day here at the state. State keeps on evolving, keeps going, so I look for them to be back, and I think they will, but I think also they'll take precautions to make sure people can be as safe as they can when they come back to the Capitol.
All right, thank you. This question is from John O'Sullivan, KMOV. He has several questions, so I'm going to ask you the first three. There are calls for you to reopen the state park. Where are you on that right now?
Well, I think we evaluate on the state parks every day, which, well, we had some problems with some of them that we closed early on, but I think we're looking at that. We're going to open them up as soon as we can. I think quicker maybe than later on some of those, but we want to make sure people can go out and get activities, what we're talking to today.
All right. Franklin County announced today it is making plans to open up things next week. Do you recommend they keep moving forward?
I think every county is going to have to make that decision of how they move forward. But right now, I think it's very important to look at the data that we have, the information we have on moving those decisions, making those decisions going forward. I think it's important, and I think in the next week or two, you're going to see some significant change in the information we have here in the state of Missouri. It's going to help us all to make some decisions in the near future.
All right, and his last question. Last night, the president said there are 29 states that he thinks can move forward on getting things moving on the economy. Are we one of those states, and what guidance are you getting from the White House right now about reopening?
Look, we're in constant contact with the White House. I was on the phone personally with the Vice President yesterday. We're all looking for ways to move the economy forward, and we're going to continue to do that. And we're all looking mainly, number one, what's the safe way to do that? But look, we got to get people back to work. We got to get the economy going. Here in the state of Missouri, that's critical. So that's just, it's an important issue we're dealing with right now, and we're making plans to reopen the state.
All right, Governor, thank you. This question is from Kurt Erickson, St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Which governors have you or your aides spoken with in the past week about a cooperative effort to reopen the economy?
Oh, my. Several governors. Most of the Midwest governors, all the way from Wisconsin to Dakotas, to Iowa, to Oklahoma, to Kansas, to speak of a few, Arizona. Multiple governors we're in constant conversations with on a daily basis. And we're all really trying to get together to see, okay, how are we going to move forward in the United States, especially in the Midwest, because that's where we all tie together. And what are the common interests that we all have, and how can we kind of look towards moving forward? And we're in the process of that right now, and I think every state has a little different idea how they're going to do that. But I think we are all trying to look beyond the COVID-19 virus and start planning on how do we open up the economy and still deal with this virus, knowing this virus is still going to be around for a while, but we still got to open up the economies in our states, and we're going to do that.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Rudy Keller, Columbia Daily Tribune. Governor, the pace of new cases reports in Missouri appear to be persistent, with about 1,000 new cases every 4 days since March 30th. Leaders in Kansas City and St. Louis are discussing the conditions for and whether they will extend their stay-at-home orders. What are the factors that will influence your decision, and when will you tell Missourians what the rules will be after April 24th? Well,
let me first off say we're in the process of working on that order now. I think you're going to get some new information on that in the near future to do that. But look, I think we're all going to move forward with this as soon as we can, and we're preparing for that day. To be able to move the economy forward. So we're going to continue to do that, and we'll be able to say more on that in the near future.
All right. Thank you, Governor. This question is from Robert Cox, the Republican Monitor. The supplemental budget you recently approved includes $1 billion for counties and municipalities. Budget committee members have said the money should largely flow through local health departments, yet the bill has no specific language regarding that statement. What restrictions are there, or will there be, to ensure these counties and municipalities use the money to support local health departments?
Yeah, I think one thing's going to be, it's going to go to the local levels. We all know that. We're working on a formula now, how we're going to do that, and what are the guidelines of the federal intent of the COVID-19. So that's going to get pushed out, whether it's the county health departments have it, or the county commissioners have it, or the mayors, or whatever control it's under, will be decided by those guidelines and how to do that. But the most important thing is we're trying to get that out to those local levels to help support that. And these health departments across the state have been under a tremendous amount of stress to be able to do what they've been doing over the last 30 days. So we're going to continue to figure out ways to support that. And again, well, we got a lot of work to do yet. This is not going to go away in a day or two.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Jason Hancock, Kansas City Star. Governor Parson, how much have you relied on the advice of your health director, Dr. Randall Williams, as you've made decisions about the state's response to the COVID-19 outbreak?
Well, let me just say this about Dr. Williams. I think every day I've been in here for the past 30 days or however long Dr. Williams has been here. He's been in here every day that I know of, 7 days a week, doing his job, trying to do the best he can for the people of the state of Missouri. And let me tell you, his heart couldn't be any more pure to what he's trying to do for the people of this state. And every day he gets up trying to figure out how he can make this state better for the people of this state. So to ask me my confidence level in him, he's right here with me every day, helping me make decisions to make this state better. And he'll continue to be there making those decisions.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Lucas Geisler, ABC 17 News. Missouri has the 8th most approved applications for the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection Program in the United States. Have you heard anything from Missouri's federal delegation on how the program is working?
We actually met with the entire federal delegation yesterday. We had a conference call with all of them yesterday to speak to them, and then a couple of them last night I talked to. We're well aware of that. We know small business is the heart and soul of this state, and they're working, doing everything they can within their powers, one, to help them get through this time and to get those resources available. But there's a tremendous amount of small businesses here in our state, and we got to figure out ways to make sure that process works for them and they get their fair share to open back up their businesses and help them through these tough times.
Okay, and two final questions. Both of these are from Caitlin Rosen from the Kansas City Star. Her first question, Governor Parson, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly said today that she has been in communication with you about setting up a strategy to coordinate efforts to reopen businesses, schools, etc. How have those conversations been going, and have you spoken with any other governors about coordinating plans?
Well, let me go back to the original. We have been talking with Governor Kelly's office. We've been in communications with them for some time on multiple fronts to be trying to do that. Kansas City sits right on the border of both Missouri and Kansas, so it's important for us to be talking about how we're going to move forward on that issue. So we have been doing it. And again, with many other governors across the Midwest, especially governors that relate to somewhat what we deal with in Missouri and how we deal with those problems. So every day we're in communications with people, constantly trying to figure out how we're going to move forward and what our plan is and how we can do things together and what things we can't do together.
All right, and the final question, Governor, for you today. This is also from Caitlin. The New York Governor, Andrew Cuomo, issued an executive order today mandating that all people must wear a mask or face covering in public in situations where social distancing is not possible, such as on public transportation and busy sidewalks. Have you considered a similar mandate?
I have not, and I'm not going to mandate for people in the state of Missouri to wear a mask. If they want to wear a mask, they can. But at this point, it's up to the individuals, what they want to do, and I don't foresee making any type of an order like that where I'm going to mandate people to wear masks.
All right, thank you, Governor. All right, Director Pauly, I've got a couple of questions for you from Lucas Geisler from ABC 17 News. Has the department had any issues with people not practicing social distancing on Conservation Department land?
I would say maybe early on, a few weeks back, especially in the urban areas in St. Louis, Kansas City area, we noted some of our areas were very crowded. But we worked hard to get signs up to make sure folks knew the appropriate guidelines that we were certainly going to be encouraging, and that has made a lot of difference. I think they've also noted that in some cases local parks may have closed, in some cases state parks, many now recognizing that we're taking seriously those guidelines, and so I would say more recently we have noted people abiding by those guidelines.
Okay, and another question from Lucas. Federal health leaders and some studies have suggested keeping distance between people through the fall. Has the department considered how social distancing may affect hunting later this year?
Well, hunting itself lends itself pretty well to physical or social distancing, and so perhaps not hunting activities themselves, because folks usually are pretty good at doing that anyway. But as it relates to perhaps, let's say, a deer season or something where folks are inclined to camp as well, We have our work to do to make sure we are communicating the expectations of those camping in our conservation areas. We already have a number of signs up in those areas. But I think the alternative is to close those campgrounds down, and hunting is a significant part of the culture here in Missouri. We want to ensure that folks have the opportunity to do it, but above and beyond anything else, do it safely. So we'll be communicating as the fall approaches and doing our best to make sure folks are abiding by the guidelines.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner Van Dieven, I have a couple of questions for you. Caitlin Schauhorn from the Missouri Times. Commissioner Van Dieven, she asks, California is considering several measures in regards to reopening schools in the fall, including the possibility of having students split the day into mornings and afternoon shifts, or staggering things like lunch and recess to limit the size of gatherings. Are these measures you're considering as well for whenever school does reopen in Missouri?
Yes, so the Center for Educational Safety, Missouri's Center for Educational Safety, has been looking at what I referenced in my remarks earlier about what should reentry look like. There will be a number of recommendations that could be provided through that group. They are still working with many others across the nation, many others within our state. So no specific recommendations at this point, but that draft document is in existence, and certainly the safety of our children and our teachers and families will be the first priority. There are many ways to implement social distancing, and that will likely look somewhat different in schools across the state, but we do think that some very clear guidance on that would be helpful to each of our districts.
All right, thank you. And the final question for you, Philip Sitter from the Jefferson City News Tribune. Beyond the current academic year, is there anything that families, teachers, or schools could be doing in the months ahead to prepare for school in the fall, no matter what that ultimately looks like?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we can do together. Every day is an opportunity for learning. And so when I was, again, referencing how grateful we are to parents and others who have stepped up to help us in this education process, the first place I would likely send you would be to our website. There's all sorts of activities, and we're adding to that every day, standards appropriate for each age level in the system, and gives you some very concrete ideas on what to do there. If you don't have, you heard me reference digital divide, and if you don't have access to the internet and you're watching this through a television today, know that many of our cities and school leaders are working to provide instructional activities through their local TV channels. We think that's a great way to go. And then we're also, just a reminder, this is a wonderful opportunity for kids just to explore and to learn about things that they like. So we'll be studying and focusing really on literacy. So make sure there's materials in your homes. Ask your children questions. We're most concerned probably about our youngest learners. Make everything a learning opportunity, as simple as reading directions for, how to prepare a meal, work on fractions when you're developing, making your cookies, double the batch. Do anything that you can to help children see the learning opportunities ahead. And I think the final point I'll make is, whatever kind of stability we can provide our kids right now is absolutely essential. And so as parents, if we can give them a little bit of structure and help them see and understand that all of this will be behind us. They will need to learn. They need to continue to learn. There's a lot of excitement and opportunity ahead of them. So now is not the time to relent. Now is the time to say, what do I want to learn about, and really go for that learning opportunity as an individual. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Director Carson? Director Carson, I have several questions. There's from Bridget Lavelle, KY3, Caitlin Schauhorn from the Missouri Times, KRCG, Maria Miller, and then also Lucas Geisler, ABC 17 News. They're all asking in regards to the counterfeit or the PPE equipment that you spoke about a couple of days ago. And some of the questions are, how much were the masks, and did the state pay for them? From what money? Will the state be reimbursed? I see they did meet testing on them. What was specifically wrong? Can you speak holistically about those equipment you spoke of the other day?
Yes, and we have received many different questions about the PPE from media as well as from fire and law enforcement, and we're happy to provide the information that we can. Here's what I said on Monday, was that SEMA had recalled 448,000 KN95 masks that had been distributed to first responders. That recall was done after testing had been completed by the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services. They conducted a fit test. on the KN95 masks that we received and found that they did not meet the standards that had been specified in some of the bulletins that we have followed. The mask would not protect those that we had issued it to, and so they were recalled on Monday. I am limited to what I can say because of potential litigation, but here's what I will tell you also. SEMA ordered these masks to protect the firefighters, law enforcement officers, the healthcare workers, and Missourians who are out there on the front lines providing services to those that have been impacted by the coronavirus. That is our number one concern, is that they be safe and have the tools to keep them safe in doing their jobs. The total number of these masks that were recalled were 48,000. We have received many more masks that are staying at the warehouse right now. The masks were to be paid for from the state disaster funds, and we've already had at least 2 vendors who were contracted with the state to provide additional masks voluntarily cancel those contracts and refund the state's money. Today, we shipped off samples of those KN95 masks to an independent lab for additional testing. We anticipate those results next week. I just want to say that we will do everything in our power to recoup the money that was paid in advance that was required by the vendors to obtain these masks. And we will continue to do everything in our power to obtain PPE that is of quality that will protect our healthcare workers and our first responders in Missouri. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Karsten. All right, my final few questions are for Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, this question is from Jeff Bernthal, Nexstar. Is contact tracing being used in Missouri, and if so, how is it being carried out, and how will it help stop the spread of COVID-19?
Jeff, thank you. We are indeed doing that very purposefully. We do that at the county level. We do that at the state level. And furthermore, going forward, as we move hopefully into a recovery phase, that one of the cornerstones as we look from federal guidance is going to be that contact tracing. Because when we get through this acute phase, we think we will still have clusters, as the governor said. And as we have those clusters, it's going to be very important to identify those people through very quick and rapid testing, which those tests are developing every day, and then isolating those people and identifying those case contacts. That's a very deliberative process. We can't thank our local health directors and the folks at DHSS who do that every day, because it is labor intensive. But we do think that going forward, that is going to be one path that not only mitigates what we're doing now, and we've seen that as we see our numbers for about the past 7 days, the rate of increase decreasing, but also as we move into recovery, identifying clusters before they can emerge into broader infectivity.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. This question is from Caitlin Rosen from the Kansas City Star. Dr. Williams, can you provide more details about ventilator distribution? And is the number of needed ventilators determined by hospitals or by the number of cases per county?
Caitlin, we again look at that every day. I looked at it this morning. We have about 2,100 ventilators in the state. Right now we have about 1,100, 1,200 available. Regions look at that. The St. Louis region, which right now is the one that has the most prevalence of disease, they look at it every day. They give a report. They work incredibly closely together. The governor and I just spoke an hour ago with the Missouri Hospital Association. So again, we think one reason that Missouri is where it is now is because of the incredible partnership among our hospitals and our providers to cooperate and to practice situational awareness and to share resources. And I think the St. Louis region among the hospitals is a great exemplar of that.
All right, thank you. And for the final question today, this reporter is Shannon O'Brien from WDAF-TV Fox 4 News. She's doing a story on the antibody testing that you spoke about, I think, either yesterday or a couple of days ago. Could you give us a little more detail on some of the things she's wanting to know? Can you trust the antibody test? What do they tell you? What do they not tell you? If someone tests positive for antibodies, can they get that virus again? Can you just give us a brief summary?
Yeah, Shannon. You know, the governor has always said the most important thing we do is protect the health and keep people safe in Missouri. And his commitment has been all along that our response in Missouri would be driven by science and would be driven by Missouri data. And we have remained true to that commitment. The governor is a great listener as we give him that advice. He seeks it from multiple sources, including me, and then he leads. And that's what you really need in a situation like this. An example is what you ask about, which is antibodies. You know, when you develop an infectious disease, you usually develop antibodies, and a rule of thumb is about 2 weeks later. We talked about that on Monday, in which we had a Missourian agree to give antibodies that he had developed to people who very much needed them. And it's been very gratifying to see that that's already being done in Missouri. There were some stories about that. But there are other uses of antibodies, and that's going to become very important. The FDA-approved test is supposed to be available on Friday, according to Tony Fauci. And when that's done, that will be commercially and available in the state lab. And we will use that as we transition, because what those antibodies can tell you is, have you been exposed to the disease? And one unknown to this emerging new disease, COVID-19, is how many people have antibodies who may not know they were ever sick, what we call asymptomatic patients, or patients who had a very mild illness. A further great use of those antibodies is, and I was on the phone this morning at 7 o'clock with the fire chief, that would be incredibly helpful for our first responders, our fire department, our law enforcement, our doctors, to know if they had immunity. And a third use of those antibodies is what we call seroprevalence, or looking at populations. As we move into a possibility that we may have a later emergence of disease, in the fall or winter, it would be incredibly helpful to know those populations that have more immunity by looking at antibodies. So at this point, their FDA-validated study is not available. We hope it'll be available on Friday. So until then, we would refrain from commenting on some tests you see out there as far as their validation. But again, we think the science behind antibodies will go a long way to helping us determine what our policies are going forward. So thank you for the question.
All right, thank you. Governor?
In the next couple of weeks is going to be a critical time for our state. So I'm asking all Missourians to step up. The next 2 weeks will decide what decisions we make for the future of this state. So the stay-at-home order becomes very important in the next couple of weeks to see where we lead this state and we're going. I am cautiously optimistic that we are on the curve, and hopefully we're going to start going the other way, but it is important, critically important, for us to make sure and abide by this order for the next couple of weeks. I can't stress that enough to you, because decisions will be made in the near future of how Missouri moves forward according to what those next 2 weeks look like. Tomorrow we will address the stay-at-home Missouri order after a number of conversations with local elected officials and other governors. We will also begin looking at a plan to reopen Missouri. That said, I want to assure everyone that public health remains our #1 priority. As governor, I have no greater responsibility than protecting the health and safety of all Missourians. Right now, testing and social distancing are the most important factors to getting COVID-19 under control and our economy back on track. Once testing is where it needs to be, then we can open the state back up. But again, until that time comes, it is critical for everyone to continue following the stay-at-home Missouri order, especially in the next couple of weeks. So please, continue to be smart, be responsible, and stay home, Missouri. God bless, and thank you very much.